You won't believe what happened when Karen decided to park her car right in front of my garage, like completely blocking it. At first, I thought maybe she didn't notice, or maybe it was just a one-time thing. But no, this wasn't a simple mistake. It quickly became clear she was doing it on purpose, and honestly, it was driving me crazy. Imagine trying to get out after a long day, only to find your exit totally blocked by someone else's car. That frustration mixed with disbelief had me wondering, how far would someone actually go just to be inconsiderate? So, here's where things get interesting. Instead of just waiting around, calling her, or leaving a note like most people might do, I decided to take matters into my own hands, using a little tech savvy. I programmed my garage door to open in a way that, well, let's just say it was going to surprise Karen. I'm not talking about anything dangerous or illegal, just a clever, harmless trick to make a point. This whole situation made me think about boundaries, respect, and how sometimes people push limits without even realizing the impact on others. Karen's choice to block my garage was more than just a parking issue. It became a clash of wills and a perfect setup for a showdown. But here's the catch. What happened when the garage door opened? Did Karen get the message? Did I push too far? And how did this little stunt affect the neighborhood drama? I'm about to share every detail of what unfolded next, and trust me, you don't want to miss it. Stay tuned because this story is far from over. There's more to Karen's parking saga than meets the eye, and the next part is going to reveal the unexpected consequences of my little programming prank. Before all this happened, I never really thought much about my garage door beyond it being just a door that opens and closes. But after Karen's car showed up blocking it, again, I started paying more attention. My neighborhood is usually pretty quiet, and most people respect each other's space, so this felt out of place. I wanted to understand who Karen was and why she kept doing this. Was it carelessness, or something else? Karen, from what I could tell, was one of those people who seemed confident to the point of being stubborn. I'd seen her around a few times before, always in a rush, never really making eye contact, and parking wherever she wanted without a second thought. At first, I thought maybe she just didn't realize she was blocking my garage, but as the days went on and she kept doing it, it became clear she wasn't going anywhere. I even tried talking to her once, casually, hoping to clear things up. But the conversation didn't go as I planned. Karen brushed me off, saying she'd only be a minute, or that she didn't see the problem. That was the moment I realized this wasn't going to be a simple fix. The whole thing felt like it was turning into a game of patience and wit. Meanwhile, I started researching ways to add some control over my garage door remotely. I wasn't looking to create drama. I just wanted a way to protect my space without having to wait for the police or tow trucks every time. That's when I got the idea to program it so that if Karen's car was still there when I needed to leave, the door would open just enough to remind her she was in the way. Nothing harmful, but noticeable. The more I thought about it, the more I wondered if this tech trick would actually teach her a lesson or just escalate things. What if Karen noticed right away? Would she get mad? Or would she finally understand the message I was trying to send? This all set the stage for something bigger, and the next time I tried to leave, things got a lot more complicated than I ever expected. As the days passed, the tension between Karen and me kept growing, but it wasn't just about the garage anymore. It started to affect the whole street. Neighbors began noticing the situation and quietly picking sides. Some sympathized with me, saying it's basic respect not to block someone's driveway. Others thought maybe I was overreacting, but a little patience goes a long way. The neighborhood, usually calm and friendly, was suddenly buzzing with quiet whispers every time Karen's car appeared. One afternoon, I caught sight of Karen chatting with a few neighbors near her driveway. I wondered if she was trying to justify her parking habits, or if she even realized how much trouble she was causing. Was she dealing with something personal that made her act this way? I couldn't help but think there might be more beneath the surface, something that explained her stubbornness and refusal to move. On my side, I kept fine-tuning the garage door programming, making it smarter and more precise. I wasn't just trying to teach Karen a lesson anymore. I was testing how far technology could help solve everyday problems like this. But the more I tweaked the system, the more I felt the stakes rising. What if Karen started suspecting I was behind the unusual garage door behavior? What if this led to a bigger confrontation than just a blocked driveway? Meanwhile, I've also started noticing other subtle signs of tension, strange looks from Karen when I walked by, or her car suddenly disappearing for a few days and then reappearing like nothing happened. It felt like there was a silent battle being fought without words. I began wondering if this was all about more than just parking. Was it about respect, boundaries, or even something personal between us that neither of us fully understood yet? At the same time, a new element came into play. A delivery driver accidentally blocked the garage once, unaware of the whole situation. That moment made me realize how this ongoing conflict was starting to impact people who had nothing to do with it. The neighborhood's calm was fragile, and I knew I was walking a thin line between standing up for myself and stirring up more trouble than I bargained for. What happened next would change everything and push this story into a place I never expected. Days turned into weeks, and the situation with Karen only seemed to get more intense. Every time I needed to leave, there was that familiar knot in my stomach. Would the car be blocking the garage again? Would the little programming trick I set up actually work this time, or would it backfire? I found myself constantly checking the driveway from inside the house, my mind racing with every sound outside. The quiet neighborhood now felt charged, like something was about to happen, but nobody knew exactly what. Karen's car stayed parked there longer and longer. I could tell she noticed the garage door acting strange, opening and closing in ways that didn't seem normal. I imagined her confusion, maybe even frustration. Was she getting the message, or was she just getting more stubborn? A few times, I thought I caught her watching me from her window, her eyes sharp and calculating. It felt less like a simple parking dispute and more like a silent war of wills. Then there was a moment when I saw a small crowd gathering on the street, neighbors whispering and casting glances toward our houses. The tension wasn't just between Karen and me anymore. It had spilled over into the whole community. Some people were hoping for a peaceful resolution. Others seemed eager to see how this would end. The energy in the air was electric, charged with anticipation and curiosity. I also noticed Karen started leaving little notes on her windshield. At first, they were polite, asking me to understand her situation. But later, they became sharper, even a little threatening. It was clear she wasn't planning to back down. The back and forth wasn't just about parking anymore, it was personal. Every time I approached the garage, heart pounding, I wondered what would happen when the door opened this time. Would Karen finally move her car? Would she confront me? Or would something else happen, something I didn't expect at all? The night before what felt like the final showdown, I stayed up late, double-checking the garage programming, thinking about all the twists this story had taken. I knew that whatever happened next, it would change everything. The question was I ready for it? Because Karen was about to find out what happens when you park in front of someone's garage, whether she liked it or not. Just when I thought I had the situation figured out, something unexpected happened that completely shifted the game. The night before I planned to put my little garage door prank into full effect, I noticed a strange car parked across the street, a car I hadn't seen before in the neighborhood. It wasn't just the unfamiliar vehicle, it was where it was parked, right where it could see both Karen's car and my house clearly. I started wondering if someone else was involved. Was this a new player in the ongoing parking drama? Or maybe a neighbor who had grown tired of the back and forth? It felt like things were spiraling beyond just a dispute between me and Karen. Suddenly, the stakes felt a lot higher. The next morning, I woke up to find a note taped to my front door. No signature, just a warning. Stop messing with Karen, or there will be consequences. My heart sank. This wasn't just about blocked driveways anymore. Someone was serious, and maybe watching my every move. I realized this whole conflict was turning into something bigger and more intense than I'd ever imagined. At the same time, Karen's car was still stubbornly parked in front of my garage. But now, every time the garage door opened or closed, I could almost feel the eyes of that mysterious car watching, waiting. The neighborhood had gone from quiet to tense, like a powder keg ready to explode. I started questioning myself. Had I underestimated the situation? Was my garage door programming prank really a harmless trick, or had I unknowingly triggered something more dangerous? The line between standing up for myself and escalating the conflict felt razor thin. The whole neighborhood was holding its breath, waiting for the next move, and I knew, deep down, that once I hit the button to open that garage door again, everything could change in an instant. What would Karen do? And who else was going to step into this unpredictable mess? The story was far from over, and the next moments would decide just how far this parking dispute would go. That morning, with my heart pounding, I stood by the garage door remote, ready to see how Karen would react this time. Her car was still there, right where it shouldn't be, blocking my way like always. I took a deep breath and pressed the button, activating the new program I'd set up. The garage door began to rise slowly, just enough to brush the front bumper of her car, a gentle reminder without causing any damage. At first, nothing happened. Karen didn't move. Then, I saw her step outside, eyes wide and angry, but also confused. She stared at the door, then at me through the window. For a moment, it felt like time froze. The neighborhood seemed to hold its breath. But before I could say anything, the door stopped rising, and then, to everyone's surprise, it began to lower again. Except this time, it didn't just stop at the usual closed position. Instead, it retracted fully and stayed open. I was stunned, unsure of what was happening. Then the unexpected twist. From the shadow of the mysterious car across the street, a man walked over. It was the new neighbor, a tech specialist who had been watching the whole situation unfold. He had hacked into my garage system to override my programming. At first, I felt betrayed, but then he explained that he understood both sides and wanted to help find a peaceful solution. He proposed installing a smart parking sensor system that would alert both Karen and me whenever the garage was blocked, making communication easier without the need for tricks or pranks. The tension that had been building for weeks suddenly felt like it could finally start to ease. Karen, seeing the effort to resolve things calmly, finally moved her car and even apologized for the trouble. The neighborhood slowly returned to its peaceful rhythm, but the experience left me thinking about how technology, respect, and communication all play a part in even the smallest conflicts. Just when I thought it was over, Karen smiled and said, "Next time, just ask. I'm not that stubborn." And with that, the story closed one chapter but opened another, reminding me that sometimes the biggest surprises come from the most unexpected places. After that surprising moment, things slowly started to settle down. The tension that had filled the neighborhood for weeks began to fade, replaced by a sense of understanding and cooperation. The smart parking sensor system the new neighbor helped install made a huge difference. It sent alerts to both Karen and me whenever the garage was blocked, so we could avoid awkward confrontations and just talk things out calmly. Karen and I ended up having a real conversation. No more notes, no more silent standoffs. She explained that sometimes she had to park there because of deliveries or visitors, but she hadn't realized how much it was affecting me. Hearing her side made me realize how easy it is to jump to conclusions without knowing the whole story. It wasn't about being right or wrong, but about respecting each other's space and communicating better. The whole experience taught me a lot about patience, boundaries, and how technology can help solve everyday problems in unexpected ways. What started as a frustrating parking issue turned into a lesson on community and understanding. Even neighbors who had been quietly watching started joining the conversations, making the neighborhood feel friendlier than before. Looking back, I'm glad I found a way to stand up for myself without letting things spiral out of control. And the tech trick, it wasn't about getting back at Karen. It was about setting a boundary in a creative way that finally got her attention. But in the end, it was the conversation and a little help from a new neighbor that really made the difference.